Hey folks, it's Jeremy Kirkland. You're listening to Blammo, and we're all here. We're holding on. We're getting through this last month of the year, or we're getting through whatever month it is you're listening to this. But right now I'm recording this in December, and I'll just say I'm on both sides here because I think getting ready for the holidays is just a drag. It is, but I admit it because I'm actually a person who I get a bit annoyed once they're all over. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of like the in-between era. Getting ready for it isn't fun, but then when it happens, you're like, oh, it's all over? Like, but everyone's buying gifts. If not, fear not, by the way. We got some more gift guides coming to you on the Patreon this week. You and everyone else you know is going to be in a big fit. We're making it happen, or they're getting big candles, whatever it is. But I've said this a few times, and I'm realizing this as I'm recording this. I recently did this video for J. Crew, and I realized my Midwest accent, it really hits hard. Because I said holidays again. Like, and even on this J. Crew video, if you see it, I say like happy holidays when it's, or holidays. Like, I don't, God, now it's piercing in my brain while I'm trying to record this. What do you say? Do you say holidays or holidays? Or, well, I don't even know. Maybe you say Happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is. I don't even know how to talk. Honestly, I'm just a guy that loves clothes. And speaking of, we got a good one this week. Nick Wakeman of Studio Nicholson. And look, I'll be honest, Studio Nicholson is a brand I've admired for ages. Nick, she's an incredible designer and is one of the folks who she always makes stuff that you aspire to, but it's also attainable. I mean, it's a luxury brand. It's a beautiful brand, but it is, you can get it. Like you can buy it from it. It's not hype clothes. And she really walks this line and just crushes it every time. Because here's the thing, and I'll go off on a rant before we get started. You can fast forward. I don't care what you do. But Nick studied textiles and really honed her craft more in the art and the film scene. And I say that because most of her inspiration for her collections are references of film and photography, which honestly is really refreshing. And you would probably think a lot of brands really do this, but they actually just say that they do versus Nick, who actually does. I mean, I know a few brands who just go through a trend report, honestly. Like they're out there. You can figure them out. They go through the trend report. They say, what do people buy? And then they say, let's make that in our fabrics. But Nick, she's watching movies. She's pausing scenes. She's ordering books. I mean, she is in it. Literally in our conversation. We edited it out, but she was getting books and stuff delivered to her. She's really in it. And I very much admire that about her. Nick and I discuss her love of film, Armani, her approach to design, what Japan gets right, spoiler, nearly everything, retail, and more. It's all in there. Thanks so much for listening. Here we go. It's Nick Wakeman on Blammo. Well, how are you doing?
I'm all right. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, you as well.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
I've been stuffing myself with Fortnum and Mason cookies for the past 3 days.
Send those to you.
Yeah. I used to work for this British company, and so I would always be out in the UK, specifically around the holidays.
Yeah.
And I'd go out there and I would just lose my mind with
in Fortnum and Mason's.
Yeah, it's the greatest place.
It really is. I really love it. There's I don't know if it's still there, but I think St. John did a pop-up in there, so you can go and have like a really nice lunch.
Wow.
In St. John. And actually, weirdly, I just ordered something from Fortnum and Mason's for the pup because they do a really nice dog collar and lead.
Right. It's interesting because I feel like, and we can jump into some of this stuff. I feel like in terms of brands, people have started to fall in love with like specific brands so much that they're looking for different ways to experience them in every aspect of their life.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, what can you brand? Like, you can put something on like the most strange products.
Yeah, I mean, some people it works really well. I mean, you look at, what is it? Is it Restoration Hardware, whatever? They have like vacations.
Yeah, it's so odd, isn't it? It's like Muji do houses.
Muji does houses?
Yeah, Muji does houses. And then they also have like retreats and stuff in Japan. So you can go on holiday as well, yeah. It's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
But who doesn't want a Muji retreat?
I'm all in on that.
Yeah, I'm in.
How's Studio Nicholson going? Because I'll say this, as a person who really, really loves what you're doing, for me, you were always like very much ahead of where silhouettes were going, fabrics that people were looking for, this kind of cozy luxury. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's really, really generous of you. I think that I'm always trying to push the boundaries on what I think's cool. I hate what everyone else is wearing all the time, or I hate trends, and I hate kind of like, oh, this is in or that's in. It's like I'll always go the other way. So now, obviously, there's like millions of sort of oversized fits everywhere, and I've gone tight.
Yeah,
yeah. I like just fitting perfectly now rather than flapping around in the wind.
Yeah. That's interesting. There's a few people, and I've talked about this before, that I use as a bit of like a barometer for like the clothes that I wear. Yeah. And sometimes when I see these individuals and they're wearing, X or Y brand or whatever fit, I'm like, damn it, I got to get rid of everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to look like you.
No, but no one really like, at the point where I go, right, it's all about the slim straight leg with a long rise, and everyone's like, are you mental? In the office, they're like, I don't believe you. This is unprecedented. We can't be doing this. I'm like, trust me. So I did it like 2 years ago, introduced all these jeans that were like slim leg. Yeah. And then last week I was like, 35 pairs sold.
There you go.
Yeah, I was like, yes. Now do you believe me?
Well, I mean, with that being said, like, how have you started to approach your collections? Because, I mean, Studio Nicholson is not your first endeavor in fashion, correct?
No. And I guess it's really different these days, although I think my practice is the same. Like, I'm a lover of films, like a massive lover of films, photography, books. In fact, I was supposed to be working this morning, but I was like just ordering books. But the start of anything for me is a nostalgic trip somewhere that is usually from my sofa, watching a movie, and it'll just spark something that'll lead me to, okay, let's get a book, let's discover a new photographer. Yeah, so to give you an example, this week I've just discovered this Japanese photographer who I'd never really heard of, and he's quite old, he's like 75 now. He's called Seichi Fiora. And he's done this one book. There's obviously his girlfriend called Christine, and he photographed her in Austria. And it's so hard for me to get inspiration for women's wear from photography or film. Films are a bit easier, but like photography or, there's a million pictures of cool guys all over the internet. There's not that many pictures of really cool women or something that sparks an interest in me. But this is really like, literally, I've gone into an absolute wormhole today on him. Now my next thing is I need him to be in a shoot or something. I'm like,
there you go.
Nuts. But yeah, so it's always the beginning of a collection where I will have a nugget somewhere, and it might have been like quite often over the summer I'll be on holiday for August and then just kind of like get into something and kind of get stuck in something, and then I'll come back in September when we're starting a new collection and go, right, sit down, look at this. And we're always aligned and they really listen to me, which is really great. And I'm talking about my designers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it always starts with people wearing clothes. Like, it's always about people. I'm the idiot that goes to the airport 2 hours early just to sit and watch people in the lounge and kind of get nosy. So yeah, it's for me, it's like that person and like, who are they, or what are they thinking? What do they do? What are their secrets? How do they wear their clothes? And it's, for me, like the people that stand out are the ones that feel seriously comfortable in what they're wearing and they look really authentic.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what it is, you know, they don't have to look that great.
Right. It's that sort of confidence or
it's like, oh my God, you just look like you were made to wear those clothes.
Yeah.
Someone that I think about a lot, who always sort of in films and out of films is Jeremy Irons. I always just think he looks like he was made to wear that shirt. Or
Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, I just think he always looks really great in clothes.
Fun fact, I was named after Jeremy Irons.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I swear to you.
That's so funny. I love that.
My older brother was named after Sean Connery, and I was named after Jeremy Irons.
Is your mother English?
No, she just had an obsession with, she's Italian, and she had an obsession with English names.
It's funny. Alison, who is our marketing director, her mother had an obsession with Harrison Ford.
Oh,
and
nice.
Alison her surname is Ford. And she thought she was having a boy when she had Alison.
Oh, yeah.
She was like, I can't call her Harrison. Let's call her Alison.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like, you know, so many people in the best possible way will kind of look as people, you know, when people talk about like Paul Newman or Steve McQueen or Jeremy Irons or Val Kilmer or whatever, these like specific eras of these actors. What's interesting to me is a lot of those actors, you know, didn't have this kind of like love and fascination with menswear. Like even, you know, Harrison Ford GQ did an interview and they asked him about that infamous sort of like Cannes photo with the boat shoes and the short shorts. And he's like, who cares? But I'm like, no, like this, you know, that's such an important part for so many people's like understanding of fashion and fit and proportion. And I always try to wonder like what was going on at that time.
Yeah.
Or that sort of, you know,
but
because like
he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, he's oblivious to it, which is amazing. But that's where the best stuff appears, I think, because he's oblivious to the fact that he looks cool.
Yeah. And I mean, they were all in just exquisite shape.
You know, and the coolest people are always oblivious. You know, you're just getting on with it. You know, I mean, the worst thing is you've like spent an hour and a half as a man getting ready and
Yeah, it's funny. I really wrestle with that, especially now where I'm like, okay, I don't want to think too much about what I'm going to wear, but I often in my effort, you know, to get dressed, I'm spending too much time doing it. And then I'm like, well, now I'm going to look wrong, I think. Yeah, I'm going to look like shit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm so habitual with my clothing that I will wear the same jeans for like 6 months. I mean,
that sounds amazing.
They won't even go to the dry cleaners. It's just like, that's my thing. That's what I wear. You know, it's all Steve Jobs shit, isn't it? But,
the concept of the uniform.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. And then I want everyone in the office to dress like that as well. I mean, not that I'm, you know, some kind of dictator or anything, but, you know, it's quite funny. Like, we'll go to Paris and do the showroom. And I'm like, right, what's everyone wearing? I think you should all wear this.
Yeah.
And then they all look at me and go, really? Like, yeah.
Tom Brown's early office, people would get sent home.
Oh, really? Yeah. I would never do that.
People would get sent home if they weren't wearing the right
Tom Brown.
Yeah, the right uniform.
I've sent people home from the store for not wearing Studio Nicholson.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm like, you're front facing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But the office,
Tom's stuff, there was and I really admire this because I think sometimes people don't quite understand it, and there's a stubbornness that I think is kind of important, especially for artists and creative directors, to really be convicted with their own ideas. And you know, and I think a lot of times people will sometimes mistake that as a level of like cruelty or something, but there's to be so focused.
And,
you know,
it's
funny you mentioned you'd mentioned Jobs, where I think sure, if you look at it a certain way, right, someone could say, well, he was cruel or this, but I think being so laser focused on your ideas, you almost get this level of tunnel vision.
Yeah, but I think it takes that to kind of get it done.
No, I agree. I mean, I just finished that Da Vinci doc.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, okay. And, you know, and it's funny because the one thing that they don't call out in this Da Vinci documentary is that a lot of people thought that Leonardo had ADHD.
Probably.
Because he was just so focused on some of these designs. And it made me realize that I think a lot of times these sort of neurodivergence or whatever people want to say, I think are these like levels of like a superpower, because you can block out all the things that aren't helping you focus.
Well, it's Rain Man shit, isn't it? It really is.
It's true.
Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I don't want anyone fucking with my ideas, because if I start questioning myself, it's like, that's my job, is to make decisions and stick by them.
Okay, so that's very interesting, and I wholeheartedly agree. Where did that sort of conviction come from, in the sense that like you need to have the confidence in your work?
Yeah, I don't know, with a bit of success, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe you get one thing right, and then everyone's like, "Oh, that's a really great idea," and then you're like,
"Well, what was life like pre-Studio Nicholson? Like, what led to that founding?"
Well, I'll tell you one thing. So my mother always says I came out knowing exactly what I wanted. I mean, I was stubborn as hell. And I started making clothes with my mum at the age of like 3, 4.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So like I would choose the fabric. Mum's a great like seamstress. So she would like make my clothes, but I would always be like, no, I'll have this one. And you have to make it to their knee, and it would be like this.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm just supremely concerned with how things looked. And, I would like redecorate the living room when Mum was away or something.
Really?
Yeah. So it was all very important to me. And I sort of tussled with that and thought, I'm just really shallow here. I'm not exactly, is this a proper job? Just making things look nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is. I think, that if you can do that, and then other people really enjoy it, that's my job as well. It's like to make really nice things so that people feel great about themselves if they put it on, or if they've got something at home, or, I think it's a really nice thing. And I still absolutely love it. All I think about is fabric and silhouettes and, constantly just thinking about range plans and textures and how do they all fit together and how does the shop look, and it's an obsession.
Well, I think that's like immensely important. I mean, especially in retail, right? Because I think when we're in this sort of era where a lot of people are experiencing brands through Instagram first or through their website first, sometimes, Rick Owens does an amazing job with this, as well. But like the scent of a store, what is the art on the store? How does that complement the experience that you're in? Because I do think there's a lot of, well, actually not a lot, but there's a few different brands that when you experience them in person and when you go to their store in person, it completely changes, your entire perception of it in a way that makes, because I remember early aughts when I was like, I would look at Rick Owens and I was like, this stuff doesn't make any sense. I understood how good he was as a pattern maker, but nothing really translated outside of the clothes. And when you got to see it in a retail store, and I think that's very similar with your brands, but also you've done an excellent job with Studio Nicholson stuff, into which you can get a single piece, right? And incorporate that in your wardrobe, and you don't look like a circus clown, because, and I'm not shitting on Rick Owens or anything like that, but there are certain brands really only look good when you have everything by that brand.
Yeah.
And that
you couldn't put a Rick Owens vest on and then have your...
I would say that'd be a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And
anything
again,
by Rick Owens I find quite challenging, but at the same time, what a designer.
Well, exactly. Like
the conviction is strong.
Yeah. But I think you've really managed to carve out a type of design and a type of silhouette in a lot of the things that you've made, into which you can incorporate that in your wardrobe, and it really doesn't stick out in a negative way. You don't look like you're trying hard.
I'll give you a tip. I mean, all I'm doing here is modernizing the classics. All I'm doing is
that's quite a gargantuan task.
And modernizing the classics. All I'm trying to do is improve and make things more beautiful, or bring them into the era that we live in. If it's an archetypal garment like a trench coat or a jean. I mean, I always say I think we'll be wearing jeans on the moon, hopefully. Yeah. Jeans will never go out of fashion. I agree. Yeah, they're just going to be there. So how do you keep improving them? Like, how do you keep enticing people to wear something better than they've got in their own wardrobe? So, is it like an amazing wash? What's the story behind it? Are we laser crease down the front, or what is it? I think it's...
What was the first brand like that kind of conveyed that for you, outside of you having clothes made for you?
Let's see. Thinking about it, like I loved magazines as a teenager, and I loved... Weirdly,
What were the magazines?
I loved Elle magazine for women.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I really loved Elle magazine, and I loved Luamo Vogue a bit later on, and then I got into ID in the Face, obviously. But
yeah,
like I remember being like 13 and looking at Romeo Julie and thinking, oh my God, that's so kind of textural and beautiful, and it was all shot by Paolo Roversi, and there'd be like these amazing images of these girls that just look quite tribal in their clothing. And I'm talking like mid 80s. So it was super inspiring to me that these like amazing prints and like scarves and stuff like that were like draped in really weird ways, and the girls would wear like turbans. And so I think that was like the first thing. And then like when I got into Luamo Vogue, like Armani was like so major for me, which was the same thing. It was all about these textural fabrics. And it led me on to do textile design at Chelsea. So I didn't do fashion design. I loved textiles more than I loved clothes.
Wow.
So yeah, I think those are the two brands. And then sort of later on, I was like Jill at Jill Sander was just super inspiring, super clean. Yeah. So yeah, I think, you know, late 80s, early 90s, you know, I'd like always wear vintage. Vintage was my thing. So I lived in Portobello Road, you know, and I'd be like down the market, down the market every Friday, buying all this stuff. And, you know, I had a bit of a look going on. But yeah, so I think, it's funny, isn't it? What kind of tickles you? It hasn't really changed that much in a way. I mean, I don't know about Romeo Gigli now, whether you could like really pull off that look, but Armani is something that we look at all the time. In fact, we've just done a jacket off a 1988 Armani silhouette, it's actually quite slim. It's quite interesting. It's a men's jacket, but it's quite slim. It's got this beautiful like sleeve roll in it and like this shoulder pad. And then it's like got like only a canvas to about here. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. So I don't know. Yeah.
Wait, hold on a second. Okay, before you send that DM or text that friend, I know what you're thinking. You're ready to buy your first serious watch, or in other cases, maybe your fourth or your fifth. But look, man, it's hard out there. It really is. From this dealer or that store that wants the purchase history or whatever. I mean, you're just, I don't know, you're almost ready to walk away from the whole game. But fear not, my friends. Check out Bezel. Bezel is the trusted marketplace for buying and selling your next luxury watch, with expert in-house authentication on every purchase. With over 18,000 watches listed right now, as of the time I'm recording this, from a mix of professional dealers to private sellers, you're just going to find what you're looking for. But wait, I know. You're like, Jeremy, I'm sorry. They don't have that X Rolex or that insane Omega. Well, reach out to them. Bezel has a real team of real people. Just create an account and be connected with a private client advisor, and they will guide you through the entire process every step. Once you decide on your watch, it's overnighted to Bezel HQ, where their in-house team of experts authenticate it, and then it's on your way to you. If anything is amiss, the watch is not listed correctly, whatever it is, they'll let you know, the buyer know, and the offer to refund you or source you a new one at a similar price. It's pretty good, right? This has been part of the Bezel ethos since launch. I've even spoke to the founders about it. And now you can make an offer on a watch, buy it outright, or bid it at auction. Bezel is the highest rated watch marketplace out there. Even Trustpilot shows Bezel is 4.9 out of 5 stars with rave reviews. Okay, you're still on the fence? Dig into the Blamo feed yourself and listen to my chat with the Bezel co-founders and, well, see for yourself. But you got this. I believe in you. Visit getbezel.com and buy and sell your next luxury watch. That's getbezel.com. Getbezel.com. Well, it's interesting you'd mentioned films. Like for me, one of the things that really like kickstarted my love of like fashion stuff more was watching Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Oh yeah,
the Jacques Demy movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, and like they're seeing just, I mean, for listeners, it's this really beautiful musical. It's bit tragedy. But the fits that everyone wears, and I think a lot of this, because I've never been a person who's liked color that much, but it made me really, more interested in different levels of color, but also the tailoring that's done on, I forget the boyfriend's jacket. He has this kind of like suede jacket with like this knit collar that's into it. Yeah. And I tried to find that, over and over again, and I couldn't find it. And obviously, I mean, this is where, loving vintage just, comes in, is because you can try to find those key pieces to try to do that. Because also, like most people, which I'm sure you identify with, I had my own look in my head, and I really didn't want to look like anyone else. I wanted to look like this look in my head, Yeah. And so it was constant. That was, I was making my own sort of like magazine. And I'm curious, like, as you started to kind of like build your own style, when did you were like, look, I think I just need to make my own brand? Like, were people coming up to you and being
Before I tell you that, I think there's something quite interesting. So I always think the best dressed men sort of have a kind of film character in their head when they get dressed. Like some of the best dressed guys that I know, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm Che Guevara and da-da-da, or whatever.
Sure.
They're always like sort of trying to create a story in their head. And I think I get dressed like that, but I'm a bit of a bloke. So I think it's a good way to kind of, express yourself, I guess, in a way. When did I decide that I needed to do my own brand? So basically I had a store just off Portobello Road where I bought lots of Japanese brands in, and it was a store that had a men's store, but these guys were like, come and do the women's store for us. You're really cool. And I was like, no, you can't pay me enough. I've got a proper job.
Yeah.
So in the end, I gave in, and we did this store together, and we bought lots of Japanese brands, and all these Japanese kids would then come here for some reason and buy it all off us. And, they'd come in, there'd be a queue out the door. This is like, early 90s, mid 90s. And they'd like buy 5 of this and 6 of that. And and then at that point I was like, I should just do my own little thing here. This is quite a good little earner. So I did like 12 pieces, and it was all jersey and sweat. And it was like 1998, I think. And this guy came in from Beams, who I sort of knew who he was. It was a guy called Kazuyoshi Minami Magawe, who was the buying director of Beams. And he was like, I heard you did your own brand. And I was like, yeah, do you want to go and see it? Someone's selling it in the middle of London. And he was like, yeah, I'll go and see it. And then he put like this massive order down. And I was like, oh, this isn't a hobby anymore, is it? So then he became my business partner, actually. And we had a business in Japan, and I would be out there most of the year, and we'd sell it into Japanese stores. And it was that sort of height of like, Stylus and Maria was around, Marushi was doing really well. There's sort of all these English brands that were doing quite well, and they were all sort of printed in wild and wonderful things. So yeah, I did that for quite a long time. And it's funny because when I sold it to a Japanese trading company in Japan who never did anything with it, the name of the brand, I sort of took a couple of years off. So I was like, I made a bit of money. Just do nothing for a minute. Of course I can't do nothing. And then I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And it's like, well, I don't know how to do anything else. So I started to do Nicholson. And, I kind of always say that I made all the mistakes on the first one so that I didn't have to make them on the second one, which is pretty true. So yeah, and I love being an entrepreneur. I love being master of my own destiny. I'm unemployable, for sure. But I think I love kind of create. I'm the daughter of a natural born salesman. My mother was an interior designer as well as a seamstress. My grandfather was a real product guy and like would import stuff and sell it and was like quite a wheeler dealer. So there's something in my blood that loves making things and selling them to the general public.
Yeah.
There's something in that. And I really enjoy the process from, let's make this. And then at the end of the day, see someone on the street wearing it and knowing that it's had like a year and a half lifespan to get there. There's something very satisfying about that. Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. I interesting because you had mentioned the interior design stuff and that how you were doing that when you were younger. I feel like that's so important because when people talk about, making a clothing brand, and this is a gone through different classes, read different books, and people talk about this. They're like, well, yeah, but what's the world that your brand exists in? And a lot of times, when people admire Ralph Lauren, look, I respect Ralph Lauren immensely, so we can take that and set it aside. But the world building for me is the greatest achievement, that he's done. And I feel like that is so undervalued now, because sometimes people, when they're trying to make a clothing brand, they'll just like think of one particular piece, because it was so fascinating to me that when we started talking, you mentioned movies. Right? I mean, that's a world, right? That's, and it goes to show why you're so good at your design, because you didn't say, oh, for me, it was about X. Sure.
It's not about marketing. Do you know what I mean? Anyone can market the shit out of anything, but if you haven't got the building blocks behind it, you're not marketing anything. I was thinking about it a lot this morning. Someone sent me a brand and they were like, should we do a collab with this brand? And I'm like, well, what do they stand for? Oh. It's a really great fucking set of marketing on social media, and they've got a website. I'm like, I don't understand it. What's their thing? I don't, and like marketing is, it's so Machiavellian now because it's like, oh yeah, I can make some really nice, I can just copy what they did and then try and sell you something. Oh. And then you get the package, it comes home.
Yeah, sure.
But it's Machiavellian. It's like, well, okay, so made a really nice cashmere sweater, but I don't know where it's made. I don't know who you are. What are you doing next season? Have you got what was the inspiration behind it? I mean, obviously I'm like hardcore.
No, this is important.
But I think it is important because I think marketing, for me, we don't really invest heavily in loads of storytelling. We want the clothes to do the talking. And as soon as they get their hands on it, they're so loyal and they stick by you because it's like the quality and the value for money that you're getting says everything. I mean, I don't want to go into any brands that I'm slightly peeved about right now, but
no, it's okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to get that out of you.
But to give you just a quick example, it's a bedding brand, right? Really good at marketing, but I wouldn't want to sleep in that duvet cover.
And why is that?
Because it's scratchy and the thread count's not high enough. But you could have done better.
Yeah, I think that's because if you look at a lot of these brands, and I know what you're talking about because it feels like you're in my group chats right now, and which is fine.
I might have to join, Jeremy.
Yeah. Oh, please. Yeah. It's but a lot of times people, when they're looking at these brands, they'll look at this from a financial perspective, and they're going to be like, okay, our customer acquisition cost is going to be around $200, which, to be honest, is actually a little bit on the lower side if you're a startup. And so they're taking all this private equity money, which it's a high rate of return, and you need to grow as much as you can. So they literally say, we're going to spend all this money, we're going to grow this brand. And then maybe it makes sense for Uber, right? But in terms of fashion, the things that we love, like you and I and other listeners, it's the authenticity that we're the most attracted to, not the subtle image, not the awkward lighting, not the influencer.
Not the easiest way from A to Z.
No.
I think some of the best brands I know don't even have a website.
Yeah.
I'm into that. The product's so great. But yeah, the ROI on everything, really? What you want, your return on investment is putting the investment into the product and then getting the customer acquisition from that. I mean, yes, they need to know what it looks like. Yes, they need a little bit of advertising around it, but
sure.
What happens at the end when they open the box and they go, bit disappointed by that.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing to arrive at.
I mean, I think about that all the time, especially when, unfortunately, we're in this world where our firsthand experience with the brand sometimes is when it's in our home. And that's such a challenge because some people, you might be very, very stubborn and say, well, you know what, this, we're just not going to sell online. And to be honest, I respect that. Chris at VinSpace, right? Doesn't have an online store, doesn't want to do it. No. And that's fine because he's a third-party retailer. into which other brands are doing stuff. And so there's familiarity and people are coming for his curation.
Slightly different, isn't it?
Yes, I totally respect that. But if you're a new brand, you do need to sell online.
I had to do it was almost an hour's work with Chris because they were so run off their feet, like 2 weeks into opening when I was over there. I had to do some customer service because it's like, he's busy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He's got customers.
Yeah. And that's great. But I feel like there's, people are really kind of in this middle ground in which they're excited. They want to do a brand. And the first thing they're thinking of is like the photography. But they're thinking of the photography of the product, not the photography of the world. And I think, when you were talking about this earlier, I mean, it's really just keeps sticking in my head of how important that is. Because you're right. Like when I look at your stuff, as I will say, the first time I experienced your brand was on your website. And your website is very, very, very good. The models look good. The silhouettes look good. It's clean. It doesn't say too much. But it also, because of that, it makes me like, I just pulled up your site right now. It makes me want to look at it more, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But, the one thing
do you feel like if you got it, like if you got the product delivered to you, you'd be like, yeah, I'm going to buy that because I know it will work.
Well, and it has, like, because I've seen a few friends of mine.
Like from A to Z, at Z, you're like, yeah, trousers are really nice.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, and this is the other thing I'll talk about in a second. But like I got some of the clothes, and
you need to stop paying full price, Jeremy. That's for sure.
we'll talk offline.
Yeah, we'll talk about
but
that.
Like I had seen a few friends that had it, and I was like, hey, where did you get that shirt? Oh, that's really good. What are those pants? Like, oh, it's Studio Nicholson. This is brand. I was like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with it, but I got to feel it. Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, where it's
it really is. I mean, the fabrics are exceptional. I don't let anything go through if it's like a bit shit.
Well, and I think that's the thing too, because there are a few other brands, and I get it, and because there are a lot of people. And I say this because we have listeners that talk about this too, in which they look at an image and they just want to copy the image. And I don't think that's wrong. But I think sometimes they're like, well, I'm going to compromise. I'm going to get this thing because it looks like this and it's cheaper. I'm going to get this thing and it looks like this and it's cheaper. And then maybe I'll spend the extra money on this.
And if that's
right. And if that's what their budget allows, I can't argue against that.
You can't argue with it,
But I think it does make you, and I'm curious how you feel about this. Like it does, in some ways, you're short selling yourself because they will take that, acquire it, and then move on to the next thing. And I'm like, well, wait, those pants, you got to get the fabric right. Like you got to, you got from Joe's copy brand and not the real McCoy, not the actual piece. And I feel like
High Street is like, obviously we have High Street here.
Yeah.
Which is your Madewell or whatever. But, quite often, Cos will fucking smash out a pair of Studio Nicholson trousers. I'm always interested. So like, I'll buy them, see what's happening.
Yeah, sure.
But the fabric's dodgy, the seams aren't done properly. And, it's made with a knife and fork. And
well, and like labor that's not, I would say maybe fair. I don't know the right terms to use, but yeah, people that probably aren't paid well, environments where you probably wouldn't want to have any other friends of yours working in.
No, I mean, I just think, there's cheaper, you can buy cheaper if if your supplier is in India, your product's going to be cheaper, which is fine because if you've got a price point that you need to meet, that's absolutely fine. And we're also interested in margins. Like margins are really important.
Absolutely.
But not at the cost of the brand's DNA and what we stand for. So, our brand signifiers are, is it going to last you 5 to 10 years? Is it going to, are you going to sit down in it and are you going to have a hole up the back? No, you're not. So it's just stuff like that. But it's fine if you're a consumer that wants to wear something for 2 weeks and then move on to another thing. I don't find that very 2024.
Well, and I think that's the thing, because like I'm glad you said it's fine. Yeah. I guess I would probably argue, because I'm just some purist idiot, where I'm like, no, it's not fine. You're missing out. But if you want the look is this. You can't compromise.
That's fine. But also, like, do you want, some of the best things I've got in my wardrobe are 24, 25 years old. Like, I cherish those things. Yeah. Those things are amazing. In fact, I'm in some scuzzy t-shirt that I bought in Japan in like 2010 today, but because I'm at home.
Sure.
But it's like, you know, it's a cherished piece of clothing that I really look after. And actually, when you go to Japan, you see all the old guys, which I find really inspiring. They've had their suit jacket since like 1956.
Yeah.
But they've dry cleaned it. They've really looked after it. It's a bit threadbare. They've shrunk so the shoulders are coming off.
Yeah.
You know, the fabric's gone a bit shiny in places, but it looks amazing because it's their thing. And they absolutely love it. You know, I really remember like last summer, I saw this guy in like a suit jacket, and it was sort of like, it wasn't grey, it wasn't purple, it wasn't navy anymore. I just don't know what colour it was, but like he loved it. And he had his little shirt on underneath, but he accessorized with a little flannel, like a towel around his neck that he tied. And I was like, yeah, you know,
what do you think that, you know, because so many other designers too, and like yourself, have this, you know, huge love and admiration for Japan. And I too agree with this, but like, what do you think, if you had to try to summarize, what is it that Japan does right in terms of retail? Or
it's about quality and perfection. So like even a shit store is like merchandise to perfection, or do you know what I mean? It's like there's just the attention to detail is everywhere, isn't it? And I think that when I first went in 1998, I went from a grimy East London full of rats and, you know, scumbags and like punks everywhere to this like beautiful, well-ordered, clean, beige, brown and optic white environment.
Yeah.
Where everything was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to sweep the street just here so you can walk on it. I'm like, what's this place? This is me. This is where I should be, because it's, you know, like Martha Stewart says, I just want it to be perfect.
I agree.
And I mean, I don't have kids, so it's great.
Yeah, there you go.
But I think Japan is something, you know, obviously it's so much more open now. You can go on holiday and, you know, there's English street signs everywhere. But when I first went, I mean, I'm so jealous because I will never have that feeling ever again, getting the limousine bus from the airport going, wow, look at this place. I'll never have that moment. But I do think that, you know, everything is very ordered. I mean, I've spent a lot of time there. I still see things that surprise me and inspire me, but I could never live there. Like the rules are just, I can't be dealing with that because I'm also like a bit of a rebel. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like if someone says to me, oh no, you can't do that, I'll be like, I can watch me. You know,
spiteful. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The first time I went to Japan was I guess it would have been the first time I did like a serious trip to Japan was this year. And I was shocked and astounded by the quantity of how good things were.
Yeah.
You know, in New York, and you'd go to a store and it's like, oh, these are the 4 stores you should go to.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is great. And they have this vibe, or you go to LA or you have this. And I'm like, everything here is good. Just the floor of what is good enough is just far beyond anything I could comprehend. And I think the thing that's always amazed me is a friend of mine used to work for Takahiro Miyashita, and he wanted to help him grow the Soloist outside of Japan.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, you know, we could do this. You could grow your collection here. And he's very much kind of like the Robert Duffy, right? Kind of guy. all sales, all business. This is how you make more money. This is how you grow and continue to last. And he was saying all these things to Takahiro-san, and he was like, okay, we'll maybe change this part of the collection. We'll make this sizing. You know, we're gonna maybe have some more vanity sizing here and there for other people. And he just stopped and interrupted him, and he was like, why? Like, he's like, I don't need it. I have no desire. Like he had no. It's not.
That's going to compromise my idea. It goes back to that. It's like Kamoli-san, same. No, I'm not doing it because it's not why I do it. I do it because I love this little narrow angle of stuff. And I have no interest in watering that down and making more money. It's very advanced thinking.
It is.
Because, you know, commercializing a brand is, you know, if you're a true creative, it's what nightmares are made of. Yeah.
But I think you're right. And obviously I think listeners understand with that. It's like there's, especially now, into which we're constantly in a barrage of people trying to sell us stuff that I think, not that brands should make things difficult, but when when the journey to something is a little bit more work, whether it's, sorry, the site doesn't have one-click checkout, or it doesn't have this, or doesn't have this.
Or it's unavailable.
Or it's not available. Bingo.
Or if we don't ship to your country.
Yeah.
You've got to work hard to find someone in that country to get it over to you. And it makes it sweeter. I
agree. And I think it really, when it takes longer to get something, or is more of a journey to acquire, I think, and this is even true psychologically, like because of what it took, you care about it more. And I think because consumerism has just skyrocketed over the years, and just how much we want to consume all the time, sometimes we miss the joy of what it took to get that piece. Because some people are like, oh, we're so focused on sustainability. And I'm like, well, you can't win. You're never going to have that conversation. What you need to focus on is making people care.
Listen, I'm a massive Amazon lover. Like the fact that I can get a dog blanket in, 12
hours.
Fabulous. Love it. But at the same time, I don't want to wear what everyone else is wearing. I don't want anyone to know where I got it. And it's not an arrogance thing. It's not a kind of I'm more special than you.
Yeah.
It's just, some things are very personal, aren't they?
Yeah.
And, if everyone's wearing the same, I don't know, Balenciaga sweatshirt with it written all over the front, like, do you feel great, or do you just feel like part of the sheep pack?
Yeah.
And, there's people out there that need to be part of the pack, and there's other people that need to be a lone wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the films. Like, what have been films to you, like, that have been like the most influential in terms of, eye-opening maybe? So
one of my favorite movies that inspired a collection a couple of seasons ago was Damage, with Jeremy Irons in it.
Okay.
So it's a movie by Louis de Mal, I think his name is. He's a French director.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a very sexy movie, but also a real tragic movie. So basically it's I think it was made in like 1988 or something. My favorite era.
Yeah.
Like late 80s, early 90s. I'm all over it.
This looks amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. So basically he falls in love with his son's fiance, and they embark on this,
wow,
really intense affair. But the clothing in it is fantastic. It's Juliette Binoche. It's a very sexy movie. And I like sort of movies like that have got that kind of romance and tension in them. So Fatal Attraction is another one for me. Like her apartment, I don't know what came first, her apartment in it or the Margiela concept store. Who knew? It was either Glenn Close's apartment or Margiela's store happened first. I still haven't got to the bottom of it. And then recently I went on like a real deep dive. So another weird one for me is What Lies Beneath.
Excellent Harrison Ford movie with Michelle Pfeiffer.
But that's the only movie he's a baddie in it.
Is it now? Yeah.
I think it is. I don't think he's ever played.
Harrison Ford is not the good guy.
He's nasty in that. But I love her wardrobe. It's very New England. Martha Stewart. I love, things about that. But yeah, that movie I think's pretty dope. I mean, she's so pathetic in it, Michelle Pfeiffer, but at the same time, it's like great jeans, love. Nice little sweater tied around your neck there.
She does.
Yeah.
It's so funny you mentioned that. I rewatched that maybe like a month or so ago.
Yeah, but she's dead. Do you know what I mean? So she can be a bit jumpy. She is actually dead. But yeah, so those sort of that era of movies I love. I mean, I think anything that is a bit tragic in a way is probably something that kind of gets me. But generally it's about, how's Michael Douglas wearing his Macintosh in the rain, or, it's stuff like that. It's nostalgic. So anything nostalgic for me, because I actually was around then, do you know what I mean? I was actually a fully fledged adult. Your listeners will be going, oh, did she? She's old. But yeah, that sort of era of movies, I think, is quite phenomenal. Black Rain, I love because I go to Tokyo.
Yeah.
Michael
Great film.
Mann movies, all that kind of stuff. So it's not, it's not particularly like, it's not some kind of weird art house stuff. It's just those sort of blockbusters from that era. I just love them.
Yeah.
It was my era. I just think it sparked something in me. The fabrics are great, or this is,
Well, that was also at that time, there was this level of, I don't know the right word to say, maybe like industrialization or into which there wasn't as much bad stuff.
No.
That was out there. And when I mean bad, I mean like in terms of like what compromises were made in maybe fabric production or...
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe everyone was like, they were doing the wardrobe from Italy or, they were seeking out really beautiful things. And we get involved a lot actually at Studio Nicholson in some movies. Like costume designers come to us a lot for clothing because actually it looks like regular clothing. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't look like Tilda's actually wearing a Studio Nicholson sweater, but it could be hers in the movie. So because it's just nice stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, that's why I love that movie Damage actually, because he's just, his suit's a bit shit and like the raincoat, and then I don't know, it's just like, and also cinematography is obviously hugely influential. I mean, me and my senior women's wear designer, we're always like getting stills from movies and going, I've got the shot.
Yeah.
Because there'll be this setup of like, oh my God, modes are perfect. The chairs, the color of this, or, and she's sitting on the chair and it's like, oh, there's the shot. I can do a shoot like that and make it, I mean, obviously I'm never going to achieve it, but it's...
Well, wait, what makes you say that?
Well, I don't know. It's like, we're not making a movie, but it's funny because we've just done the shoot in Italy and it looks really like a movie. I was like,
maybe you should.
Maybe we've done it. I would love to do a movie and we have a great director lined up. We're just trying to find the extra budget right now, but yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, because it sounds like your greatest calling is your maybe it's...
I like seeing clothes move.
Yeah. And I think also maybe teaching.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot of stuff that you're communicating that I think a lot of younger designers or younger professionals just may not understand, because I think so much of, because I spoke to these students not that long ago, and everything was based around this linear path. And it was also based around just making more money, like, because that was how you continued, which I get to an extent. But I think, you look at, this sounds really silly, but like you look at Vermeer, right? Who made incredible art, but basically spent all of his money on the paint to make the art. What wasn't probably the most business savvy person, and that's fine.
Yeah. But what passion?
Exactly. And I think that is, we're attracted to passion in addition to...
I think I know some designers that probably did spend all their money on the show or which is amazing. Like, real hand to mouth stuff. Like, the passion's really there. I mean, all of those designers like Margiela and everyone would blow all their money on their show.
Yeah.
In the vain hope that someone would buy a few bits.
What was it? It was like, I don't know what year it was, where like Carol Christian Pohl like sent a bunch of people down the Seine or something, or I mean, it was just like people were just like floating in the water, and that was his collection.
Was his thing. Yeah. It's funny.
But I think there's
some.
Yeah, but I think there is beauty to that, into which you're, I mean, especially when you're trying to show, your collection and how you want people to experience it, and this is that moment that you get.
I think the worst thing anyone ever says in the office is, "Oh, that'll do." I'm like, what kind of sentence is that?
It's a death rattle.
That'll do. I think so.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're at where I think you probably should be teaching this stuff too. I mean, I think that stuff's important.
Maybe. I mean, I would love to do it actually. A friend of mine in New York invited me when I was over there to come and do a lecture. I couldn't make it in the end. But yeah, I would love to. There's a lot of friends of mine that teach here as well.
Yeah.
I've got a potty mouth, so I don't know if it would really work.
You'd be surprised. I mean, in the class, I spoke to these students the other day, and I heard quite a few expletives just from the students. So much that I was like, seriously? I was like, hey, fuck is not an
No,
I was like, you can just say,
just maybe pause.
Yeah, they were like,
they're like,
fuck. And I was like, hey.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. Maybe one day when I have a little more time.
Yeah, sure. What is the most of your time being consumed with now in terms of your day to day? Like walk me through your perfect day.
Meetings. That's another expletive, isn't it? Meeting. I've got a meeting now. What? Had one. Meetings, sign-offs. I mean, it's funny because if I've never got time to actually sometimes, not that I need lots of time to work out whether something's right or not, but sometimes I'd love a little more time to sit with something and go, it's always, it's really fast paced and people want an answer immediately. It's like, oh, we've done the palette and we need to sign it off the next day. No, I'm not having that. Do you know what I mean? Give me a week with it. I think mostly meetings. We're opening a shop next week in London, our second shop.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have one. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
wow.
So that's taking up quite a bit of time. I was down there last night. The dog had its hard hat on. Ivis, or? So that's exciting. It's looking really good. It's quite different from the one in Soho. So this one's in East London, which is our sort of home.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's always something going on. There's like another project. I've got a very, very tenacious CEO called Mark, who is, right, what we're doing now, he can't sit still, which is great. That's his job. But then there's all the work that comes with it. So that's fine. So, shops, sign off.
But you need that left-right brain dynamic.
But I'm also very business-minded, which is unusual. Like I can kind of, like my commercial side of my head is working at the same time as my creative. So I'm not making a navy sweater in Scotland, or I'm not making a $1,900 suit jacket for no reason. I'm not doing it because I love it. I'm doing it because we're getting lots of red carpet. So I want to do an Italian tailored jacket. So like when we do a handover, like we handed over all the winter collections for next year last week. And I was like, just so you know, there's a reason I did this. It's because we have a lot of red carpet. Celebrities are wearing it. This is the reason we've done it. And the sales team are like, oh, yeah, okay, great. It's not me having, just being fanciful about stuff. So I'm quite commercial in that sense. I'm not someone to stick my neck out in terms of the business. And Mark is very good at that. He's like, we need to be opening more stores in Asia. Let's get on with it. I'm like, okay, fine, you do it. You do it. I'll be there choosing worktops, whatever, Oh,
yeah, that's great, because I think you, especially with brands, when you look at brands that are successful, and in most cases, a brand that's successful is a brand that continues. Yeah. And having that ability to actually grow and expand.
Yeah, you can't stand still, for sure.
I mean, I'm not this big Bernard Arnault apologist, but I think there are aspects of business and fashion that
you have to get involved in.
Well, exactly. Like there's stuff that I think does make sense, especially if you want stuff to continue, and maybe you don't make, making this up, you don't make vacations. But if it does fit within the brand and the mindset, because I think that is stuff to kind of tie back to where we first started talking, that some people do want to have a deeper interaction with, they love a brand so much. They want,
more.
like, yeah, or what's the scent in your store? I want the candle. Can you sell me the candle? What's the paint? What is the couch? I want this couch.
Or like when you do an interview in Japan, they go, where are your socks from? I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you're like, damn it, Uniqlo.
Yeah, but it's that thing, isn't it? Like the obsession. I mean, I have it. Like there's certain women in the world I'd love to know what they smell like, or, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also men as well, actually. Like there's a lot of guys out there. I'm like, oh, I wonder what he smells like, or like, what does he think about? What does he really think about?
Scent is my most important thing. Yeah, absolutely. I have the curse of a super nose. Are you?
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a unisex.
Okay. Oh, that's great that you're doing a scent.
Yeah. It takes quite a while.
It does.
Yeah. I'm doing
good margins, though.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We're doing it in collaboration with a very well-known perfumer.
Okay.
She was the first trained nose in England.
Trained nose in England?
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. What a nose.
Well,
yeah.
I want to be conscious of your time. So before we wrap, what are just a couple things that you've experienced recently that have inspired you? Movie, film, music, art?
Well, obviously, I told you about this Japanese photographer. That's tickling me quite a lot. Weirdly, I'm dying to see, but I can't go to the cinema at the moment because I can't leave it for more than an hour and a half, which is really annoying. But I really want to go and see Conclave, which is all the stuff I love.
I just watched Conclave.
Did you? Did you enjoy it?
I did.
Yeah. So I love anything kind of Vatican related.
Yeah.
You know, the dark and dastardly Catholic Church business.
Yeah.
So I'm dying to see that. And then what else is exciting me? I'm getting the store open next week. And then movie-wise, I think, I don't know, I'm kind of just plotting what I'm going to watch this weekend. So we're starting Spring Summer 26. So I'm starting to rattle through stuff and try and work out things that I need to get in my Rolodex.
Yeah.
I started reading again today. But I was reading my Ray Petrie book, which is all about Buffalo Style. So I was going back through that and like thinking how it really influenced a lot of stuff for me and for everyone else, I think, around that time. But yeah, I can't really think of much else. I'm really excited about the perfume. I get a third sniff, I think, before Christmas.
Yeah.
And then I'm not at all looking forward to the holidays because I do find I'm not looking forward to it because Christmas is a nonsense for me.
What? Hold on.
I know. I'm such a bar humbug.
Wait, what do you got against Christmas?
It's lots of spending money on things that no one wants.
Okay, I agree with you on that. Yeah. There's a lot of unnecessary, dumb spending for things that
not very good at sitting still.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's so nice to talk to you.
Yes. Thank you. It was absolutely lovely meeting you.
Oh, nice to meet you, Jeremy. I hope I get to see you in person.
Yes. Yeah.
Bye.
You've been listening to Blamo. Our show is produced by Blamo Media. We're edited by Amar Lowell, and our theme music, as always, by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. If you like what you heard, you know the drill. Share the pod with a friend. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars or thumbs up on whatever other thing you're listening to us on, whether it's Dingledorp or Bing Bong, whatever it's called. But you can also follow us on Instagram for all the hot content. If you want to talk to us and give us your hot take, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us an email at info@blamopod.com. Last but not least, super ultra important, if I had a air horn, I would press it right now. You got to come and join us over on Patreon because the fun never stops over there. Look, the live show, the free show, whatever you want to call this, we take breaks here and there, but Patreon, it never stops. And we also got exclusive shows like Die Workwear, hosted by Derek Guy and Peter Zotolo, and the Triple J Show, hosted by yours truly with John Moy and Gene DeLeon. There's just a ton of stuff over there. So check it out at patreon.com/Blamo. If not, no worries. We got hundreds and hundreds of free episodes in the feed and more to come. So we will see you all soon.